This is video number 2 for lesson number 3, atoms and molecules. In the previous video, we have discussed about laws of chemical combination. There we studied two laws, law of conservation of mass and law of definite proportion. We have also solved some of the numericals. Now today we will study about Dalton's atomic theory. It postulates means what were the major points of this theory and what were the drawbacks. So let's start with Dalton's atomic theory. According to this theory, Dalton stated that all matter, whether it is an element, compound or a mixture, it composed of small particles and these particles are called atoms. Then his theory, Dalton's atomic theory, is based upon the two laws which we have studied in the previous video. Let's discuss the postulates one by one. First postulate states that all matter is made up of tiny indivisible particles called atoms. He concluded that matter consists of atoms and atom cannot be divided. Till that time this was considered, but it has changed after that. Second postulate states that atom can neither be created nor be destroyed. Furthermore, atoms cannot be divided into smaller particles. And if you can correlate this is the first law, that is law of conservation of mass. This is what we studied, that atom can neither be created nor be destroyed. So this postulates consist of first law of chemical combination also. Next postulate was that all atoms of a specific elements are identical in mass, size and other properties. Like if we talk about hydrogen atom, so all the atoms of hydrogen, they have same mass, they will have same size and they will exhibit same properties. And if we compare with some other element like helium, oxygen, nitrogen, then the properties, physical and chemical, will be different, the mass will be different and the size will be different. Fourth postulate states that atoms of different elements have different masses and different chemical properties. Obviously, hydrogen is different from a helium, nitrogen is different from oxygen based upon their physical and chemical properties. Fifth postulate states that atoms of different elements can combine with each other in a fixed whole number ratio in order to form the compounds. Now this again proves your second law, that is law of constant proportion. The fifth postulates completely agree with the law of constant proportion. Ki whenever the compound is formed, the elements which are participating in the compound formation, they will have a fixed whole number ratio between them. CO2, 1 atom of carbon and 2 atoms of oxygen. All the compound, all the CO2 is formed in this way only. The proportion of carbon and oxygen will remains the same. Last postulate is the relative number and kind of atoms are constant. The atoms remains constant. They cannot be changed in any of the conditions. But later on, some of the scientists studied more about these things and then they retained that there are certain drawbacks in the theory. So let's discuss the drawbacks also one by one. First drawback, that was the first postulate, that atom was indivisible. It was proved wrong that atom is divisible now and the different subatomic particles of atom are electron, proton and neutron. Electrons, they revolve in the orbit. Protons and neutrons, they are in the nucleus, in the center of the atom. Electrons have a negative charge, protons have a positive charge and neutrons are neutral in nature. This was the first drawback. Second drawback was atoms of the same element have different masses. It is possible that atoms of same element may have different mass number. You can see here hydrogen 1, hydrogen 2 and hydrogen 3. Here hydrogen is having just one proton, one positive charge, therefore the mass number is 1. But here it has one proton and one neutron, therefore it has mass number 2. It is known as deuterium. And when it has 2 neutrons and 1 proton, then it becomes tritium or hydrogen 3. So this proves that same element may have different masses. And the term given for this is isotopes. We will study this in detail. For now, you just have to remember this drawback. Next drawback says that atoms of different elements may have same numbers. Like you can see here, it is argon, Ar, K for potassium and Ca for calcium. You can see the mass number is 40 in all the 3 cases. So this is again a drawback of Dalton's theory, that different elements may have same mass numbers. Okay, and the term for this condition is isobars. Isobars are the different elements which have the same mass numbers. This is also there in the later part of the chapter. We will discuss this in detail at that time. Next is that substance made up of same kind of atom, but they have different properties. They may have different properties, and this is known as allotropes or allotropy, and this was also not considered in Dalton's theory. For example, carbon exists in 2 forms, crystalline and amorphous form. Diamond is also a form of carbon only. You all know this. Graphite, that is there in the lead of the pencil, it is graphite. Fluorine and soot, that comes when you burn something, black color vapors that are coming, it is known as soot. So they all are the forms of carbon, but they have different properties. This was also not proved by Dalton in his atomic theory. Next drawback is the ratio in which different atoms combine to form compound. It is fixed, it is integral, but it may not be simple. For example, this is a sucrose molecule or cane sugar molecule. It is containing 3 elements, that is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and ratio is 12:22:11. It is integral, it is a whole number, but the ratio is not simple. Okay, so these were the drawbacks of Dalton's theory. So in your notes, after the numericals of laws of chemical combination, you will write about Dalton's theory, postulates and the drawbacks. This much for today. Next, we'll meet soon. Thank you so much.